Let's start with the second reading. These are the ones who have survived the time of great distress. They have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Where we are right now, we might feel like we've made it through the times of great distress. The pandemic is almost over. It ain't over. And the other times of distress are still coming. This phrase speaks to where we are, where we've been in our world. About 5 years ago, a priest friend of mine, looking at the challenges the world was facing then, often said, it's the apocalypse. In the last 2 years, as we've entered the age of COVID, then racial tension flared up, then the diocese began the process of bankruptcy, which is still going on, then the political tension began to flare up to higher levels, then Russia invaded Ukraine. This same priest sometimes jokingly says, wait, which apocalypse are you talking about? There are so many. The book of Revelation, and any apocalyptic literature in the Bible, and it is found in other places, but the book of Revelation is all about the apocalypse. It basically has one message. God wins. God already won. Stay faithful. That's the message of the book of Revelation. It was written during times of great persecution. You know, you hear in the first reading that Paul and Barnabas, they went to another place. So they were kind of like weren't accepted. And they went to another place, and the people there were filled with joy and the Spirit, and all these wonderful things were happening. And everybody kind of thought that it was going to, be a short time. Jesus was going to come soon. And they started to realize it might not be tomorrow. And then there were persecutions. If you're a Christian, you're in trouble. You're going to be tortured. You're going to be killed just for saying that you believe in Jesus. And many people got kind of nearsighted. They didn't look at the big picture of that when all things are all in God, I will have joy in heaven. They were looking at today. And so they were accepting the invitations at times to renounce Jesus just so that they could have a job and raise a family in safety. Times were tough. But again, the book of Revelation is about a call to be faithful. Because in the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus, God has conquered everything evil. I remember facing another apocalypse in recent history. In 2001, the clergy sex abuse scandals were starting to become big news. And I was asked to move and take the place of a priest who was arrested for sex abuse. When I announced this in my parish, a parishioner said to me after Mass, "Can I talk to you?" And he came into my office and we sat and talked. And he said, that guy who was arrested, he's a young, charismatic priest. And he was bringing people to Jesus. The devil doesn't like that. And so he found his weakness and pushed at it until he fell. I'm not saying, Father Mike, that you are ever going to abuse a child, but you're a young, charismatic priest and you're bringing people to Jesus. The devil doesn't like that. And so he's going to be looking for whatever weakness you have and be looking to push at it. I just thought you should just be aware of it and also know that I'm praying for you. It was a profound conversation. You see, he went on to say that, God did win, but the devil doesn't know it. And so the battle goes on, and the battleground is our world, and the battle is for our souls. Wow. It's scary. But that's the truth. But the truth also is God won. And so we're called to stay faithful, to stay on the winning side. How do we do that? How do we survive our times of great tribulation? How do we wash our robes in the blood of the Lamb? We do what the gospel told us to do today. My sheep hear my voice. I know them and they follow me. I give them eternal life and they shall never perish. That is not only comforting, that's filled with hope. My Father is greater than all, and no one can take them out of my Father's hand. That's true. No one can take us out of the comfort, out of the safety of God's hand. But they can invite us to walk away from the protection of God's hand. There are many other voices. You see, the answer is simple. Listen to the voice of Jesus, the Good Shepherd. But it's not easy, because there are so many other voices vying for our attention. Some are just distractions. Some could actually be diabolical. Every one of the challenges we face in our world can be a distraction from hearing his voice, and could even draw us away from his voice. COVID hasn't just frustrated us all and interrupted our lives. In many ways, it's caused polarization. To mask or not to mask. To vax or not to vax. And people, the reasons for doing it, the way I figure it is that what we do here, we want everybody to be safe and feel safe. And so even though I'm vaccinated and boosted again, when I'm near you, I'm wearing a mask, because I want to listen to the voice of the shepherd who tells me to love you. I wish we could all do that in all circumstances. I wish I could do that in all circumstances. Political tension and racial tension. It's never a matter of I'm 100% right and you're 100% wrong. It's always mixed. There's three sides to every story. Your side, my side, and the truth, which is somewhere in between. But the reality is, sometimes it seems as if the loud voices on either side are drowning out the voice of the shepherd. And everyone who's involved in any of that tension is a little bit culpable of drowning out the voice. The church sex scandals, horrible, sinful. And we're paying for it. We're going through bankruptcy. And it does have an impact on the work that the church can do. But there are some who would respond by just saying that, well, all priests are guilty, and none of them have any credibility. Or it could just, that attitude could lead people just as astray and do as much damage, a different kind of damage, than the guilty priests. There are voices on television that are distractions. A new one just came out this year when New York State legalized online gambling. You see all those commercials that will even give you $2,000 worth of risk-free betting. Wow. If you're a person who might be prone to having a gambling problem, that would be like the equivalent of saying to somebody, I'll give you your first week of heroin for free. It just doesn't make sense. Other voices on TV, where you get your news, there's a side to it. Where you get your religion, there's a side to it on TV. If any other voice gets in the way of hearing the voice of the Good Shepherd, even if it's my voice, ignore it and go to the source. Jesus, it's his voice we're supposed to be listening to. He said, my sheep hear my voice. I have a friend of mine who says, I have no problem with God. It's his employees. Yeah. We can get in the way. So if that's the case, cut out the middleman and go right to the source. There's another apocalypse that could be outside our door this weekend. We were given warning by email earlier in the week that there are planned protests and even the possibility for hate crimes against Catholics this weekend because of what's happening in the Supreme Court. If it were to happen, I want to encourage us all to remember Jesus, the Good Shepherd, who says, we, his sheep, hear his voice. He tells us, love your enemies and pray for your persecutors. That's how we should respond. The message in our readings today is simple. God won in the death and resurrection of Jesus. Stay faithful to the winning side. We stay faithful by listening to the voice of Jesus today and every day.